Right, so anyway, like I said, we covered a lot of different stuff, and there's one on this layer. So what layer was that? That layer. Okay, hold on a second. There's this one thing I don't really like, that right there. So I'm gonna get rid of it. I just wanted it to slightly highlight that side, and then some of this I made some of the secondary light a little too bright, so I'm just kind of erasing some of it a little bit. All right, and then I need to okay, what layer is doing that on her face? I guess that's the way I colored it. Let me fix that really quick. No. I have to get really small brush here. I just want to make sure this is all smooth. One thing, okay. I want it to look like, pencil, so I'm going to leave all the texture there. Although the background doesn't look like pencil, but whatever. Right, so now we're going to do the rim lighting. I'm going to make another layer for that. And I'm not going to use really bright. I'm going to use kind of a big brush here, and that should be good enough. And so now again, I'm imagining the backlight source right about here, although it's really not right there. It's actually going to be more like behind her, but whatever. It could be right there. The fact is it's behind her, but we're not actually going to see the light itself, like a light bulb or something. Although I could make it where we can see the light bulb right there, whatever the backlight source is. And so now I know that it's going to be affecting most of her upper body parts as it's hitting. So I gotta imagine that it's hitting like, there, and then it's not really going to be hitting up there so much. So just imagine the parts it'll be hitting. So if it's here, you can imagine the light source coming behind her. So if it was from the side, let's say, so let's say this is her body. Oops, this is her body from a side view, right? And the light source is like here. Then you want to imagine, all the different parts it'll be hitting the most. So this part of her body is where it's going to be hitting mostly, and then it's not going to be hitting much down here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I know that up here, I'll probably use a size 3, I guess. I'm going to use a hard ink brush. I only have size set to pen pressure, nothing else. I want to kind of fade up that way and down this way. Notice I'm going right over my line work. Oops. I want to fade this in like that. And might have a little bit of rim light here. And if I wanted to, I could, go brighter on some parts like that. As I'm doing it, just the bright parts, I can hit it. And again, what this is using backlighting is a good way to bring the object out. And if I was doing a painting, I might be using like a pink color or a blue color or something for this. I do this on a lot of my comic pages. Add some, rim lighting or backlighting, whatever you want to call it. Now I'm going to turn this layer off and on in just a second so you can see the difference. I'm just going to kind of wrap this around and fade it, make it get kind of faded out like that. And it might just, maybe just a little bit right here. But you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to check a skeleton like I said I was going to. Tell you guys whether or not the bones were correct, if it's supposed to go from the knee to the inside. So I should probably do that really quick. Okay, so now I'm going to turn that off and on so you can see the difference it makes. See, that it really makes it pop, and it makes it pop out from the background and stuff, and it looks really cool. So, cool factor. Okay, cool. So I just went ahead and checked about that bone, and it is right. This bone is a thicker bone. It's a thick bone, but the part that actually protrudes out is very thin. But it goes from here to this inner part here. So from there to there, it has a slight curve to it. Then you have a little bone coming from here to there on that side. So there's a space between them. Okay, so there we go. That's the finished version with no reference. I think it came out pretty good. My anatomy is still lacking. I'm still studying anatomy, so there's some parts where the anatomy could definitely be better. And I'm sure I made little mistakes here and there, but overall, I think it looks pretty good. And hopefully you've learned something about shading form, and the different principles is first master just shading, the first part of this series, master just shading the in one direction. Put a light source in one direction, master that direction too. Like for me, it doesn't matter whether it's on the left or right, but master, because that's the most prominent light source used in photography and stuff, and it's dramatic, it's good. It's called form lighting because it highlights the top planes and it highlights the side planes a little bit, and so it allows for the maximal form to be shown, and it's really good form of light. So that light you want to master, whether it's on the left or right side, doesn't matter, is going to be like this. That is that it's coming. If we look at from the top view, this is her head, and then the light source will be like over here, kind of like above her, and so then anyway, you get the idea. It's not that hard, and it doesn't matter what side it's on. You want to be able to do it from both sides, but the point is it's kind of up above a little bit, and it's like coming down at an angle, and so that's the light source you want to master, because it's the most prominent and cool light source. Then you can mess around with lighting her from the bottom, having light coming straight up at her, like that'll kind of give her a horror feel. It's all the same principle. You would keep everything in mind. The light would be hitting here on this form, and you'd kind of come around like that. So all this would be the darkest, and this would be the lightest down here. And then same thing with this part of the knee would be lit up, and this part of the knee would be dark. Because let me go ahead and zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. If we did do it that way, then we would see that, go ahead and make a new layer here, that this part of the knee would be the lightest because the light's coming up this way, and this part of the knee would be the darkest. So it's all backwards, and all this part of the leg is darkest, but all this right here down here will be the lightest because where the light source is coming from. And you would continue to shade it like that, and then this whole plane here is turning away from the light, so it's all going to be darker, but all this right here will be hitting a little bit of light, and so forth. And this is all going to be really dark. All right there is super darkest. It's the furthest away from the light source that comes up. And then you have a little bit of light hitting like this part of the sphere down here. All this will be shaded in. A little bit of light above the belly button. That light there, so that will all be light. And then this is individual muscle, so all the top parts would be dark, and then same thing with those muscles. Only the light would be hitting the bottom, and you just continue following that principle all the way up the image. All that would be the darkest, and then that right there would be the lightest there. You just shade the whole thing like that, and it's a good practice to build, to do that from your memory, and then practice back and forth from shading figures from memory and then shading them from sources, from a reference. That way your brain will remember little things as you're doing, like, oh, that little line's like always like that, whenever the light's from that way, whatever, and you'll just remember that, and you'll do it all the time, like the belly button thing like that I showed. I just remember that from drawing, from life drawing and photo references and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, I gotta make sure I put that belly button there. And you'll start studying everything you look at too as you walk around and everything. So alright, once you master a single direction of light source, then after you have that done, then add in the reflected lights, then add in cast shadows. Actually, do your cast shadows. Notice I didn't do her cast shadow, her body cast shadow, which would be coming this way, and I didn't do that. So let's see which one was the. So I could have actually added in her. Damn, man, I'm about to run out of time again. I want to next video. I want to start. Anyway, her shadow would kind of come that direction. It'd be darker towards her feet, and it would get lighter as it comes out this way. But I don't feel like doing it and making it all proper and everything. But you get the idea. And then kind of fade it, whatever. So she has her cast shadow now. Anyway, then you do cast shadows, and that wherever they're the lights forming, and then finally go in and do not finally, the next stage. So first stage is the single light source. Establish that, do that. Next stage. Alright, so first stage is the single light source. Once you establish that, the next stage, and also cast shadows. And the next stage after that is to add in your backlighting, not backlighting, excuse me, your secondary lighting and or bounce light. So secondary light and or bounce light. Finally, you want to add some background and then add in your backlight or rim lighting, and then you're done. And so those are the stages you want to master. Alright, so hopefully this series has helped so far, and that's the realistic rendering, and those are the principles you want to apply to any object you're doing. And then next we're going to apply the same principles but to a simplified comic type shading on this figure over here.